sometimes we make a mistake when we put too much hopes on individuals, and we find out that those individuals end up failing, not because they lack integrity, not because they lack good values, but because of the system around them. Now, we should concentrate on building institutions. Fine, it is humans, it is still people that builds institutions. Right people, getting right people in the office to focus on institutions. For example, we have a system in the United States right now. Bring the most stupid man on earth, forgive my word, and place the person in White House. He will perform. There are certain things you can't do. There are certain excesses that the institutions will not allow you. You saw the events of Trump towards the end of his administration. You see how powerful the institutions were to cut his excesses, to stop certain things from happening. Now, Africa has weak institutions, and I'm just saying that from our own perspective. For example, our last president, President Muhammad Buhari, is a man that came in on a very strong anti-corruption campaign. In fact, still now, he's out of office now, you can't tie his name to any negative thing in Nigeria. His political trajectory, coming from the military background, has been such that has been rid of corruption. That is, he came on that platform and he sold that to Nigerians, and so much hopes were up there. We believed so much that this was the Messiah. But the man came into a system that doesn't have strong institutions, and the corruption that happened under his nose, even him cannot comprehend. So sometimes when we focus on people, we end up disappointed.
It may happen.
Yeah. Why we need to focus on institutions, and building institutions take time. Maybe that's why we're seeing some of these Western countries now as developed democracy, not because of personalities. Humans are frailties. We're all humans. You know, we have a tendency of corruption. For example, we're here. There are CCTV cameras everywhere. Even if you have a tendency to steal, there's something to checkmate your corrupt tendencies, right? So, but when you don't have that in place, that is where you see people go on the loose and mess up the system. So I think Africa should begin to focus on building institutions. You know, so that brings me to bringing the quality people into office. And sometimes we make the mistake, on 25th we're electing a new president. The buck stops on his table, but the president will not be in your village. The president will not be in your local government, will not be in your state, you know. So there's so many people that work with the government. So what do you think we need to begin to look at in the recruitment process of our leaders, government officials, specifically?
The right man at the right place. The right man at the right place, right? You are right. I share your opinion when it comes to have a solid, a strong system. And as you said also, it needs time.
Yeah.
So it's up to leaders. It's up to all the components of the society to improve the system in which you are using, the system you're using, right? So we have to improve it. In terms of leaders coming in power or leading in everywhere, right? It's important to put the right man in the right place. And this should be through a transparent process. Because what we notice is that most of the time when someone comes in leaders, he try to put his family members in other.
Yeah.
This should be avoided, right? I don't say that you don't have to bring your family member, right? But if he has, let us say, the competence to be there, it's okay.
Why not?
Right? It's okay.
He's a citizen.
Yeah. But also, as a good leader, be fair enough to, for example, when that one makes mistake, even if it is your family from your family, to let, for example, the auditors or those who are controlling to do their job. But what we see is that when you have your family members or your friends or your, let us say, these kind of things, you tend to protect them, right?
Yeah.
The president tend to protect them. So this also is some problem of the system, and we have to improve it, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's why I was focusing on the question of values, right? It's not, when I talk about values, it's not only for leaders. I'm talking about to try to promote values for all the members of the country.
Yeah.
Right? We have our own values, right? The values we have in Senegal may differ from the values we have in Western countries. So it's not the same, right?
Yeah.
Because even in our daily life, we believe that we say in Wolof, jom, fulla, fayda. Right? These are values. These are necessary values that personally we should embody. We have to teach to our children, and they grow with this kind of values.
Yeah, that brings me to in most African countries, we have relegated the role of traditional institution to the background. We're talking of values now. If you, for example, back in Nigeria, the traditional rulers are more revered, respected by citizens, even than the political leaders.
Of course.
Now, but the problem is they have been relegated to the backside. They have they don't have sufficient constitutional role in governance. I don't know what the situation is in Senegal, but that is one of the issues. So when we talk of values, the custodians of our culture, the custodians of our heritage, values, ethics, we have relegated them back. And these are people that when they talk, people want to listen. They have followership. In fact, the colonial masters used that system, which was very effective for them to engage in the expedition. Right. So now we have relegated them back to the background. We have removed their powers, and now we have the political leaders in front and having them at there's no sync. So what is the Senegal experience? And what do you think in this regard?
It's a little, it's similar. I think it's similar in Africa. We have to bring back those values because we cannot develop Africa without our own values. Yeah, I'm telling you. We have our own environment. We have our own realities. We have to take into consideration to those realities, right?
Yeah.
See what's happening now. Because of globalization, now young people, they tend, let us say, to copy from Europeans, from Americans, so much so that I think in my country, you care a lot. You care a lot about the future of young generation. right?
Yeah.
And if you remember, for example, you when you were young, you were educated based on values.
Absolutely.
From your father, from your mother, from
Your
your
family
grandfather.
played a very big
A
role.
very big role.
Extended family in Africa.
So they build a citizen. A citizen is not only that one who is educated in a democratic country, but our system also, we build up citizens with values, with a person who believe in himself, right?
Yeah.
But unfortunately, this tend to disappear because of globalization.
Yeah.
So we need to come back to our values, to our own values.
You know, when you were talking, I asked you earlier about the style, the system, the democratic system in place. Do we need to begin to look at alternative models? And for me personally, I believe we need to uh, begin to revisit those models that had worked before the colonial expedition
Exactly.
and modernize it. You know, what we have experienced in recent time is just copy and paste.
Of course.
In fact, you're lucky in Senegal, I think you have a unilateral legislative house. In Nigeria, we have bicamerals. We have Senate, we have House of Rep, and all this. These were copied. Oh, US has this bicameral. Let's just copy this so that we legitimize ourselves as pride ourselves in democracy, which is not what if we look at the China experience. No, fine, they have their mistakes, they made their mistakes, they have their flaws, but they have managed to forge something that is unique to them. The style of democracy, you have to study. That's why it's called China miracle. It's different from the traditional economic models. So it's a blend of their culture. It's the blend of their uniqueness, their resources. They looked at their population. They looked at they were able to come up with their own industrialization model and all that. So it's a whole lot of gamuts of things that were put together. So I think African countries needs to begin to look at this and be able to redefine what it calls democracy. But unfortunately, I would say the democracy itself has been held hostage by the political elite. It's very difficult to change anything right now. So you can't. They have benefited so much from the proceeds of democracy. So for them to now sit down and begin to revisit the constitution and change certain things that doesn't work in their favor, it becomes very difficult. So now, what do you think is the way forward for us in Africa?
Difficult question.
We're
Difficult
in a
question. Anyway,
hostage position right now.
Anyway, Africa has its own history. Africa has its own resources. Africa has people that have their own way of life, their own way of thinking. But we tend to let these kind of things, as you said, the system we copy and pass from the US. We should not like that. We should not like that. We have to mix everything, because when we revisit history, we saw that the example of Mali can be cited as an example before colonization, that they had an effective system. And it is even said that the United States inspired from that system to set to begin their laws. Right?
Yeah.
So we have our own realities. we have our own things. We have also to focus on our own things and avoid copying system, because the system you are copying, it's based on the reality of that area. And that area sometimes is different from your area. So we
Absolutely.
have to focus on our own area, on our own realities, and try to build up our countries.
Yeah.
Right? It's a matter of belief. We have to believe that we can do it, because you see, Africa is always lagging behind. Why? It's unfair. People are the same.
Yeah.
This giant man sitting there studying is not more intelligent than you. Right?
Yeah.
So young people should be well equipped through education, through vocational training, so that's, and also well educated in terms of African values, right? And this, like Thomas Sankara in Burkina Faso, that ideology, it can work for Africa, right? It can work. I like, and for example, you are wearing this clothes, for example.
Oh, shout out to my wife. She made this.
Congratulations to her.
Yeah.
Right?
Erime Fashion.
Right?
You have to pay me for advert.
All right.
Yeah.
Because this is our own product.
Yeah.
We have to promote our own products. Right? If you spend all your time buying product from other countries, how about your own development? It cannot work. And this is so beautiful.
Yeah.
A suit is not more beautiful than this. But we should know that this is beautiful. This is our reality. We have our own design. We have to promote them.
Yeah.
And make them on the world, make them world standards.
Absolutely. We, as I said earlier, we're making progress. You know, we're coming up. Young people, especially. My focus, while we're doing this, our audience are the young people, because we are the present and we are the future. You know, these old guys, they will go. They have stale minds. They're not. We're not hoping they change because their minds are made up already. The young people are educated differently now. And we're seeing the young people of Africa engaging in technological space. For example, Nigerian youths right now, they've taken hold of that technology space. They're doing so well now. It's a kind of revolution. You know, look at the African music, Afro beats. You know, it's everywhere in the world. The movies, African movies, Nollywood, it's everywhere in the world.
Of course.
You know, so we are beginning to take those spaces, but we're still lacking in leadership. So that is where some of the problems are. Of course, the leadership. You mentioned very critical things about values. You know, those are things we need to begin to look at, because Africans are known for great, deep cultural heritage and values. While I was growing up, every elder reserves the right to correct me.
Exactly.
I don't have to get home. On the street, I can be flogged for doing the wrong thing.
Exactly.
And they will tell me, tell your parents that I flogged you.
The same in my country.
So that was how we grew up. Suddenly, globalization now, a teacher in school cannot even shout at your kid. You know, it's now child abuse. It's, you know, and all that, because we have so much disrespected how we're raised. Of course, we have the reality of the now, which we need to embrace, but there has to be balance, you know,
Exactly.
with all this, so we don't have to throw away our cultural heritage, which is very key. Let's talk a bit about the influence of former colonial masters on African soil, which is still a subject of discourse. And so many countries presently, especially Francophone countries, have expressed dissatisfaction in that. Some have expressed it in form of coup and all of that. How do you think we can bring this to a good end while maintaining good relationship with the West?
Yeah, it's possible. First of all, I would like to say that this is possible.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of will. If we want to do so, we can achieve it, right? Countries should be treated equally.
Yeah.
Right? And I told you a while ago that no race or no ethnic or is more intelligent than another one, right? Maybe in terms of level of education, for example, Western people are really in advance compared to Africa. All these are challenges in terms of education, but now it's changing. It's really changing. African people are now when you look the population, especially those young, educated people, now they tend to promote a little bit, even though there is a lot to do again. Right? We need to do so. We need to believe in ourselves, especially yours people. Yours, the yours is the coming generation. They have to believe in themselves and know that they can make change.
Yeah.
Right? France now is losing that influence you are saying. Look what is happening in West Africa.
Yeah.
All those go from Mali to Burkina Faso, right?
Niger.
To Niger, and maybe soon in Senegal.
No, it won't happen in Senegal.
It will happen because we believe now that we need ourselves.
Coup will not happen in
Senegal. No, not the coup. I'm talking about the influence. The influence, right? Yeah. The influence of France, right? We know that now we need ourselves.
Absolutely.
We need ourselves. So they have to let us lead our countries as we want. Right? So this influence is reducing, right? And maybe in 1 decade, maybe I think from this trend, they will lose all that influence, right? But we are not saying that we are not going to treat with those countries. Of course, we need cooperation because we are in an open world. We need cooperation. We need free trade. This kind of things.
In fact, that brings me to that because one of the weapons they have used is divide and rule. They've ensured that, for example, ECOWAS, we have not. There's no integration. There's no trade. There are arguments, of course, that most of us produce similar products at the primary level of production. So if you're producing the same thing I'm producing without adding value, what am I trading with?
Exactly.
So those are arguments, right? But of course, there are other things we can trade. But when we look at the trade within Africa, it's not where it should be. And politically, we have seen how division has been created in those regions where we can't work together, especially the Anglophone and the Francophone Western African, sub-Saharan African countries. So what do you think we can begin to do, to foster these cooperations and integration? Because if you want to get rid of external influences, you have to put your house in order.
Of course.
Right. You have to look inwards and sort out your issues. Find there's no system that is rid of conflict, but there has to be, a system in place that manages those conflicts. But what we see right now is we don't have a voice. We are still divided. And that is what the external forces are using against us?
I think just we need to love each other as Africans first. We need to love each other. We need to respect each other, but also we need to support each other. By supporting what Senegal may produce can be different from what Mali or Mauritania is producing, right?
Yeah.
So the trade should be, there should be a good, let us say, flow of trade.
Based on comparative advantages.
Yeah, right? We have to prioritize that trade first, right? It's a priority for us. Beginning, for example, from region, West Africa, East Africa, North Africa, beginning from there and tending to an African, let us say, cooperation, good cooperation, respect.
You have to remove those barriers.
We have to remove them.
Visa barriers, bureaucratic
all
barriers,
these things.
Create infrastructure, rail infrastructures, and all those things have to be
why not
addressed holistically.
Exactly. Because if you want a free trade, it means infrastructure.
What's your optimism about the African free continental trade after?
In the future?
Yeah.
I have a positive hope that things may change in the future. Yeah, because when you see what's happening now in these last decades, you see that they are trying their best. Some countries, they are trying their best to let us say to improve that cooperation.
Yeah.
Right. Some countries in West Africa, for example, in East Africa, there is no longer that matter of visa between them.
Yeah.
It's possible. These things are changing.
Absolutely.
Right. And also the promotion of language.
Rwanda has removed visa for African countries. I understand Gambia too.
Yeah.
I hope we have that in every African country.
I think this thing in the future will be improved. I'm sure that this will go ahead, right? Maybe in 10 years, in 15 years, you will see that things will change, because we need that. We need each other in terms of countries, right?
Yeah.
And we need to cooperate more, right? Based on and for that also we need infrastructure. Infrastructure is very important in terms of to facilitate that free trade between African countries, right? And I hope that those institutions are working on it to realize and to achieve this kind of things, because without that it will be somehow difficult to, or it may take time, so much time, to facilitate that cooperation. But let's be hopeful that with this young generation coming, having really believe in Africa, that they will make those things.
Wow, thank you. As we round up, I want you to talk to your people back home concerning the election.
Yeah.
What are you telling the electorates back home?
Just to respect the voice of the people and to go to election in a peaceful, respectful environment.
No violence?
No violence. No need for violence. And though the leaders, just know that you are in power, that you have your time to rule. When the time is over, just know that you have to hand over the power to others to come to improve what you have already done. It's just like that.
Wow. Yeah. Thank you very much for coming.
You're welcome.
I hope we have this conversation again. It's an endless conversation.
I like it, and
we look forward to other issues to discuss.
Thank you, brother.
Africa.
Thank you, and I really appreciate this initiative. I encourage you in this way, because we need voices in Africa. We need voices to aware to make people aware
Yeah.
about what's happening
What's
in the world.
happening.
And this kind of initiative is really helpful. So I
Please
encourage
tell your people to subscribe to this channel.
They will.
All right. Thank you very much. We've come to the end of this show. Join us in the next session. Thank you.